girl who went to school. When the little girl had been in school for a while, the teacher said,
"Today we're going to make a picture."
Good, I like to make pictures.
Thought the little girl. She could make all kinds. Lions and tigers and chickens and cows and smiley faces and boats. She went to her easel and she began to draw. But the teacher said,
"Wait, it's not time to begin. Now we're going to make flowers."
Oh, good, I love to make flowers.
thought the little girl. And she began to make these beautiful flowers with her pink and purple and blue crayons. But the teacher said,
"Wait, and I will show you how." There now, you may begin.
and this teacher had taught the little girl how to draw the flower with a red and a green stem.
There now, you may begin.
The little girl looked at the teacher's flower. Then she looked at her own flower. She liked her flower better than the teacher's, but she did not say this. She just made the flower just like the teacher. It was red and it had a green stem. On another day, the little girl had opened the door from outside, all by herself. The teacher said,
"Today we're going to make something with clay."
Oh, good, I like clay.
thought the little girl. She could make all kinds of things with her clay. Snakes and snowmen, elephants and mice and cars and trucks. And she began to pull and pinch her ball of clay. But the teacher said,
"Wait, it's not time to begin. Now we're going to make a dish."
and I will show you.
Now,
The little girl liked to make dishes. And she began to make a dish that was most unusual and interesting. But the teacher said,
wait, and I will show you how.
and she showed her how to make a deep dish.
There, now you may begin.
The little girl looked at the teacher's dish. Then she looked at her own. She liked her dish better than the teacher's, but she did not say this. She just rolled her clay into one big ball again and made a dish just like the teacher's. It was a deep dish. And pretty soon the little girl learned to wait and to watch and to make things just like the teacher. And pretty soon she didn't make things her own way anymore. Then it happened. That little girl and her family moved to another house in another city. And the little girl had to go to another school. And the very first day she was there, the new teacher said,
Today we're going to make a picture.
Good.
thought the little girl. She waited for the teacher to tell her what to do. But the teacher didn't say anything. She just walked around the room. When she came to the little girl, she said,
Don't you want to make a picture?
Oh, yes. What are we going to make?
I don't know until you make it.
Well, how shall I make it?
Why, any way you like.
And any color?
Any color. If everyone made the same picture and used the same colors, how would I know who made what and which was which?
I don't know.
and the little girl, said the little girl, and she made a red flower with a green stem. Did anyone have an experience maybe similar to this growing up? Perhaps it wasn't a teacher. It could have been a parent. It could have been a relative. Or perhaps it was a member of the clergy, maybe a minister, or in my case, a nun, who, God bless. That's why I said forgive me. Okay. But sometimes we were told to stop asking so many darn questions. You know, it got in the way, so we learned to conform. We learned to wait and be told what to do in life. And though in those kinds of situations, you weren't really free to be, okay, God, I have it. You really weren't free to be your unique self, to express it, free to be me. You really weren't able to at that point. Ernest Holmes talks about freedom to not only experience, but rather to celebrate our uniqueness. In his book, Science of Mind, he writes, "Freedom is the birthright of every living soul. Our inherent nature is forever to express itself in terms of freedom. We do well to listen to this inner voice, for it tells us of a life wonderful in its scope, and of a love beyond our fondest dreams, of a freedom which the soul craves." These words are serving as the foundation for this month of July, as the theme is the many facets of freedom. So we're going to be delving into the many facets of freedom. And today we will apply this theme into the aspect of the freedom to be ourselves, that trueness of who we are, free to be me. Freedom to be who we uniquely came here to be. Because you know we all have a uniqueness within us. Each and every one of us expresses our life, our essence in different ways. Our souls crave the freedom to express our individuality. When we don't allow our spirit to step out and fully express itself, there's no way that we will experience freedom and joy. We just can't. Not fully. Not fully. Freedom about who you uniquely came here to be, which is, by the way, your divine birthright. Freedom to be, and so the question this morning is, are you expressing that freedom? Are you expressing your divine birthright? Or are you still drawing those flowers that are red with the green stems? It is my intention this morning that we look at remembering and having the freedom to be who we uniquely are, really who we are. Remember that God didn't create any two of anything alike. Everything is unique, one of a kind. We're talking about a creative power that does not need to repeat itself. So it is the absolute truth that there is a uniqueness within each and every one of us that is only ours. So I'm encouraging us to find out what it is and to let it shine, to express it. So today's filled with illustrations. I'm going to get to those illustrations on page 4. The first one, which is what we already did this morning, is how we can be squelched, how that inner light can be really dimmed when we're not allowed to express ourselves fully. And Don Miguel Ruiz really talks about that in the 4 Agreements, a class we're doing right now on Monday nights, when he says that the humans are domesticated. We didn't even get to choose our own name. You know, we've been domesticated. But now we're going to learn how to maybe move that into expressing the truth of who we really are. In the end, I want to finish this talk with another illustration in the form of a song. But in the middle right now, we have one that will help us maybe think anew about ourselves. How many of us have been to Italy to see the magnificent work? Yeah, I see some hands. Did you see David by Michelangelo? Yes, you did. Okay. Do you know the story of how David came about? Well, if you do, you can come up. But if you don't, I have a few interesting facts about it. So in the mid-1400s in Italy, sculptors were commissioned to create a series of 12 large Old Testament figures for the Cathedral of Basilica di Santa Maria del Fiore in Florence. I'm sure you were there. Yeah. 2 of those statues were completed, and in 1464, the artist Agostino di Duccio was commissioned to sculpt David. A giant block of marble was mined and brought all the way from a quarry in northern Tuscany for this piece. Even though it was a great amount of effort and extreme expense, they brought this big block of marble. Duccio spent nearly 2 years on this project, but he didn't get really far. He got the kind of like the shape, and he got the legs, but he didn't really, after all that time, he didn't really get to the essence of it, and so he was kind of asked to leave. So fired. A year later, in 1467, another artist, Antonio Rossellini, was commissioned to take up where Duccio left off. However, Rossellini did not get very far either, and he also was asked to leave. And so this project was abandoned. It wasn't abandoned for a couple of months. It was abandoned for 25 years. So for 25 years, this giant block of marble laid neglected in the church's courtyard, in the workshop. But in 1501, the authorities were determined to find an artist who could take this large piece of marble, which they called the giant, that's what they called this marble, and turn it into a finished work of art. They ordered it to be raised to stand on its feet so that a master could experience the kind of work that they might need to, so they could examine it and work on it. Although they did ask Leonardo da Vinci and other different various great artists at that time to come forth to see what their opinion of it was, there was a 26-year-old by the name of Michelangelo that really convinced them that he could do this. He could sculpt David out of this. So he began carving on that statue 1 month later. He worked on this massive biblical hero for 3 years. So he completed it in 1504. Although Michelangelo was an artistic genius in many, many different capabilities, he had a lot of talent, as most artists do, in many different areas, he considered sculpting to be the highest form of art because he felt it was the closest you could come to being the divine creator. He worked under the premise that David was already in that block of stone. That block of marble already contained David. And all he had to do was chip away at the parts that were not David. David was in that piece of marble, that huge block. And so there's some deep and spiritual messages in that story. First and most obvious was that David was already in that marble, just waiting to be revealed. Michelangelo viewed his job as simply removing that which did not belong, taking away that which wasn't part of David. Meister Eckhart, a 12th century German mystic, said the following: the spiritual life is not, I love this, the spiritual life is not a process of addition, but rather of subtraction. It's really very powerful. The unique, wonderful, glorious, gifted, creative, talented, free you is inside. You have always been there. You might have forgotten, but you've always been there. You don't need to find it. You don't need to get it. You don't need to add. It's there, waiting to be discovered, to be revealed. So we strip away. We strip away. What are we stripping away? We're stripping away all the beliefs that we've accumulated so far. We're stripping away that which no longer serves, so that that beautiful work of art, that is our unique self, can be revealed. Come forth the beauty of it to come forth. Holmes, in this thing called You, writes, if God created you after his own nature, and there is nothing else he could have made you out of, then the only thing you are after is already here, within you. The only thing that stands between you and it are the accumulated thoughts, beliefs, and emotions of the ages. But there is nothing there that has not been put there either by yourself or by the collective consciousness. What has been put there can be removed. It can be removed. So what are we removing? As I said, we're removing the stuff that we might have been taught that interferes with us expressing the beauty and the uniqueness of who we are. We've seen babies. We've seen these beautiful little creatures as they come into being, the innocence and the freedom, and they don't look around for approval. They're not looking for any addition. They just want to be fed and burped and poop and pee and just be themselves. They don't care because they haven't been affected yet, okay? The beauty, the work of art is there already. The Spanish cellist Pablo Casal once pointedly inquired how we see ourselves and our children, and he said, I love this, when will we teach our children what they are? We should say to each of them, do you know what you are? You are a marvel. You are unique. In all of the world, there is no other child exactly like you. In the millions of years that have passed, there has never been another child just like you. And look at your body. What a wonder it is. Look at your legs, look at your arms, look at your fingers. Look at the way that you move. You may become a Shakespeare, a Beethoven, a Michelangelo. You have the capacity for anything, he says. Yes, you are a marvel. Okay, so we might not have heard that as a child growing up, but you can hear it now. So I'm going to say it to you. Do you know what you are? You are a marvel. You are unique. In all of the world, there has never been anyone exactly like you. In the millions of years that life has been going on, there has never been another person just like you. What a wonder you are. Your legs, your arms, your fingers, the way you move, you have the capacity for anything. You are a marvel. You are a marvel. And that feels, does that feel good? Yeah. Because it makes me feel really good to say it. You're such a marvel. You are. Every one of us. So in Matthew, in the Bible, he says, you therefore must be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. Today is the day we start chipping away. We're chipping away at that which stands in the way of our expressing our uniqueness, our beauty, our perfect self. It took Michelangelo to see David within the stone. He had to see it before Michelangelo and two other artists who worked on this giant piece, and several others, including Leonardo da Vinci, who were unable to see it, but it took a Michelangelo to actually see the David within the stone, and then to work on it. There may have been many people in your past, in your lives, who just couldn't see the uniqueness that was you, the beauty that was you. And as we've just realized, just because they couldn't see it, it doesn't mean that it wasn't there all along. This is the time, right here, right now. This is the time to start to chip away, to start moving all of those old beliefs that no longer serve you anymore, and let that exquisite work of art come forward and shine. Until we see what we are, we cannot take those steps to become what we really are meant to be, because we all have a divine purpose, each and every one of us. Until we start appreciating ourselves, hear that, appreciating who we are, recognizing the many gifts that we have. And don't tell me you don't have any gifts, because I can assure you that every single person has a unique gift of themselves within. Everybody. We cannot, until we begin to realize that we cannot fully express the freedom, the joy, and the beauty of who we are, to become, we do have to become our own Michelangelos, to chip away, to create our work of art. And one of the greatest ways to do this also is to call out the greatness in others, to see it in others for them too, to become the Michelangelo for other people, to see the beauty in them, if they can't see it at that particular time. To see someone else's greatness and to help them see it, and then this also not only helps them, but it helps us. It helps us to appreciate and connect and to realize that there is an individual greatness in everyone, in every single person. And sometimes, you know, first we have to find it for ourselves, first of all, and then to see it in someone else. You could change a whole life without even realizing it, just by seeing something great in another person and telling them. It took time for David to be revealed. That block of marble had been sitting there. And so, as I sat with this story of this creation of David, I figured about how long it took from start to finish to complete it. The original commissioning of the piece took place in 1464. Michelangelo completed it in 1504. That is 40 years exactly. 40 years it took for David to be revealed in that piece of marble, that giant block of stone. This is a real, 40 is a real significant number, yes?
Yes, yes.
It's repeated all over the Bible, 40. 40 in the Bible, if you study the metaphysical interpretation of the Bible, 40 is significant of a spiritual awakening, of transformation. That's what the number 40 represents. Noah and company spent 40 years on the ark. Buddha spent 40 days under the Bodhi tree. Jesus spent 40 days in the wilderness. Moses and the Israelites spent 40 years roaming the deserts and the wilderness. And now we have another thing to add to it. It took 40 years for David to come into being. So that 40 is all about awakening, about transformation. And I'm here to say that I'm not going to take another 40 years for this, because I don't want to be 101 when I have my transformation. So I figure another 20 years. I've done 20 years on it, so I got about another, what, about another 20?
Yeah, about that.
Yeah, so there's no time in God. Begin now is the point. Begin now to chip away, to release that which no longer serves you, so that that beautiful work of art that is you, that's always been there, can come forth. Start expressing it. Get up in front of a microphone and sing, or just speak. You know, whatever it is, or dance, or paint, or just do needlepoint, which I love to do. But anything that expresses, that brings you joy. If you're feeling joy, then you are in the flow of transformation. You're in the flow of an awakening. However long it takes is okay, however long it takes. But we must begin today. We must begin right here and right now to first realize there is that magnificent work of art within each and every one of us. So let Michelangelo's David teach us these three profound truths. The first one, the glorious you already exists. The second one, surround yourself by those who see it. Begin to see it for yourself and help others to see it for themselves. And remember, it takes time, and it's okay. However long it takes, but begin, because this is where your joy is. This is where the freedom to be me is. This is when you start to celebrate the uniqueness of who you are. There's no one in this room that's exactly the same. You look around. Just look at, I'm looking at all these different faces, and I don't see any two people. I have twin grandsons now, and I know they're not alike at all. They're not alike. There's no two people alike. And we all have these beautiful gifts. So I want to leave you this morning with one final illustration in the form of a song. And the cue. In the form of a song. And this is a song that I hope that it means as much to you as it means to me. And we play this in, I think we play this in our workshop.
We do.
We do, right, Reverend Jessica? Okay, so I want to leave you with this. Because listen to these words. Play it loud. We want to hear it.
Michelangelo was asked how he got in the floor and made the lovely David from a giant block of stone. He said, well, he was in there waiting. My job was simply excavating. I just took away what